Hello, I'm Eric Corman, CEO at League of Education Voters and the parent of a high school junior of the global majority in the public school system who is accessing special education services. I advocate because of my son, so that every student can get what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. This webinar features closed captions. To access captioning, just click on the live transcript button in the bottom of your screen. Spanish interpretation is also available. To access this webinar in Spanish, in your webinar controls at the bottom of your screen, click Interpretation, which is the icon that looks like a globe, and then click Spanish. And if you want to hear only Spanish without the original English in the background, click Mute Original Audio. Special thanks to Claudia Azar, who is our interpreter. If you have any technical issues, feel free to use the chat function, which I will monitor throughout the webinar. In case you're not familiar with us, League of Education Voters is a statewide nonprofit working with families, educators, and leaders to create learning environments where every Washington student feels safe, supported, and a positive sense of belonging so that they can achieve academically and access the life they choose. Our website is educationvoters.org. We believe that education is a tool for justice. One of the systems that perpetuate racial and disability injustice experienced by global majority communities is our schools. We believe every child deserves an excellent public education that provides equitable opportunities for success. In order to achieve this, we must pursue radical change in our school systems for equity, justice, and liberation. We must build schools and systems that honor the humanity of every student. Welcome to our free online webinar series, Lunchtime Webinars. We started this series 12 years ago to share information and build knowledge on important and timely issues. Today's webinar is about bridging the STEM gap, how science on wheels drives hands-on learning across Washington. Since 1974, Science on Wheels has brought interactive, standards-based STEM programming to youth across Washington. This past year, Science on Wheels served over 116,000 learners across 48 legislative districts. 87% of these programs provided at little to no cost in low-income schools and community centers. With only 55% of Washington students meeting standards on the Washington Comprehensive Assessment of Science, it's more important than ever to invest in science education. In today's webinar, we'll explore how Science on Wheels is making hands-on science learning accessible, fun, and engaging. We'll hear from educators who will share how their classrooms benefited from the program, with students actively engaged in scientific practices like experimentation, critical thinking, and deductive reasoning. We'll also discuss the program's ambitious goal to provide free STEM learning to every K-8 low-income school in Washington, and how legislative support is crucial to providing direct support for more than 52,000 students in 2027. And now I would like to ask our panelists to introduce yourselves. Feel free to popcorn to whoever you'd like to go next. And let's go ahead and start with Trish.
Hi, I'm Trish Bethard, and I'm the superintendent and principal of the very small but mighty school district on the Olympic Peninsula.
And who would you like to go next?
How about Jenny?
I'm Jenny Malwitz, and I'm a STEAM teacher at Robertson Elementary over in Yakima. And yes, we've gotten to have Science on Wheel for a couple of years. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And maybe Sean can go next.
Thanks, Jenny. I am Sean Cocker, proud principal at Woodmont K-8 in a very diverse and large community in Federal Way Public Schools. And we've also been hosting Science on Wheels for a couple of years as well. Glad to be here, and I will popcorn to Braden.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. My name is Braden Sigwa. I'm the Government Affairs Manager at Pacific Science Center. My job is to advocate to the state legislature about the importance of funding for Science on Wheels, and I'll talk about that a little bit more today. I'll pass to Holly.
Hello, my name is Holly Duskin. I am Senior Manager of Outreach Education here at Pacific Science Center. So I manage Science on Wheels and our other outreach programs. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. Thanks, Eric, for hosting us.
You bet. Yeah, I appreciate you all being here. Today, to begin today's webinar, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral and unceded traditional lands of the 29 federally recognized and non-federally recognized tribes in Washington state, including the Chehalis, Chinook, Colville, Cowlitz, Duwamish, Ho, Jamestown Sklallam, Kalispel, Lower Elwha Clallam, Lummi, Makah, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Nooksack, Port Gamble Sklallam, Puyallup, Quileute, Quinault, Samish, Soxweattle, Shoalwater Bay, Skokomish, Snoqualmie, Spokane, Squaxin Island, Stillaguamish, Suquamish, Swinomish, Tulalip, Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, Upper Skagit, and Yakima. We give thanks to elders both past and present, our native and indigenous colleagues, and the land itself. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. You'll notice a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This is a space for you to submit questions to us. If time permits, we'll have a few minutes for questions after the panel discussion wraps up. As always, feel free to send any feedback about the webinar quality to us on the chat function or at info@educationvoters.org. And speaking of the chat function, you're welcome to use it to check in and comment on anything you hear. Welcome, Trish, Sean, Jenny, Holly, and Braden. Let's learn about what Science on Wheels is. And I believe, Braden, is that your bailiwick here?
Thank you, Eric. I'm actually going to pass it to Holly because she's our pro and manager of the program to talk a little bit more about it.
Great.
Yes, thank you. And I think Braden's got some slides for us to introduce. So just a little bit of history to get us started and orient ourselves here about Pacific Science Center. So we were founded in 1962 as part of Seattle World's Fair, and PacSci's mission is to ignite curiosity in every child and fuel a passion for discovery, experimentation, and critical thinking in all of us. So we're a fairly large size institution. Our campus is here at Seattle Center. And we serve about 500,000 guests each year. That includes both visitors here on site as well as students that we are serving with our various education programs, including our outreach education programs that serve students all across the state, as we'll be discussing soon. And a really big part of our mission is just to expand access to science, be a really vital resource for our educators, such as our other panelists that have joined us here today, and to really be that community laboratory that's helping to connect the public with our STEM professionals and experts. All right, so Science on Wheels started in 1974. Our origin story is that this was a time when there was an energy crisis going on and gas prices became so expensive that it was cost prohibitive for schools to be able to travel here to the Science Center on buses. It was financially impractical, but our educators came up with a pretty innovative solution. They just started loading up all kinds of science activities into their vehicles and driving out to those schools to meet them where they are, to make sure that students still had access to those STEM experiences, despite the challenges that our community was facing at the time. Of course, a lot has changed since 1974. So over the last 50 years, the program has evolved many times. Our current program offerings include live science shows, pop-up exhibit sets, and classroom workshops. So we have a really big variety of modalities of teaching and different kind of size packages to meet different audiences. But we continue to innovate and create new aspects of our programming. So most recently, for example, starting in 2020, we created a virtual outreach component that now is a supplemental part to our in-person outreach. Those are our digital discovery workshops. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Another recent milestone is that in 2023, we added electric and hybrid vehicles to our fleet. So as you can see, we're driving around in these big vans, but trying to make sure as we move forward, we're doing so in an environmentally responsible way. In terms of our impact across the state, we are the largest science outreach program in Washington. Last school year, we served 114,000 learners just within the state of Washington. We also do a couple programs over in Idaho every year. We had 980 programs last year, including both our in-person and virtual components of our program. And as Eric mentioned, across 48 legislative districts and 120 school districts. So we're really proud and pleased to be able to go all over the state to provide access to these programs. And in terms of a kind of more qualitative, what is the impact of these programs? Again, we'll get more into that later, but just an overview for you all that this is really a STEM experience that folks tell us that their students wouldn't otherwise be able to have that experience if we weren't able to come out to them. A lot of folks mention their science supplies are limited, making hands-on experiences difficult, as you can see in this survey response from a public school teacher. And it's really a high priority for us to make sure we're providing these opportunities, especially to our low income communities that face the largest amount of barriers. So last year, 80% of our Science on Wheels programs and 93% of our digital discovery workshops were delivered specifically in those low income communities to make sure we are providing as much access as possible to communities that need it most. So I'll pause there with our kind of general overview of things and pass it over to our Q&A so that we can hear some more from our panelists.
Great, great. Okay, so let's start with this. For our educators on the panel, and that would be Jenny and Sean and Trish, what is it like having Science on Wheels visit your school? And if you could share feedback from your students and teachers on favorite parts of the experience.
I'm happy to go first. We have done 2 different programs of Science on Wheels here at my school. We are a STEM-based school, so we do have some STEM labs and things that we do during certain parts of our schedule. We always generally do it in June, so it's a nice way to kind of wrap up the year and have some fun extra hands tactile learning. Students absolutely love it. They are so excited to have guests come in their classroom, do activities with them, go to the exhibits. They get really excited to have the assembly and get ramped up for their learning. So it's always something that we look forward to kind of ending our year with. And giving access, my school is very low income and high multilingual. So a lot of our students don't have access to actually go to the Science Center. So it's really great to see them just light up with joy. We have a lot of families that will come volunteer and help support the kids too. And they also love coming out and just exploring with their students when they come.
For us, being so rural and remote, we're an hour from civilization, so it's really just a special gift to have them come to us. And what it looks like for us in our little world is we have an all-school morning assembly with all kinds of activities, hands-on, that generate interest. They involve the kids with introductory activities, and then they have a interactive exhibit set up in the gym with various hands-on activities the kids circulate through. And then they have a classroom set up with where kids are participating in learning activities and putting their hands on things. And to me, what you hear, if you were to just come by on a day where we're having Science on Wheels, you would hear so much excitement. The kids are asking, what's next? What's next? Because there's 3 parts. And when are they coming back? And there's also a lot of alignment and relationship to classroom lessons. And so it's a day of real excitement at our school when they're coming.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to have them come twice, and we actually are scheduled for them to come again this spring, thankfully. I was afraid we weren't going to be able to do it when the funding issues, but thankfully we were able to do it at 75% off. So, and my principal came up with the money through some LAP funding to cover it. Yeah, we are a very low-income school, multilingual. We also have 3 self-contained special ed classrooms that all got to participate as well. So the first year we had it, I was actually teaching 3rd grade at the time, and our STEAM teacher at that time scheduled it, and I just loved it. It was the Constellation one. It was just amazing, and they had the best time. And then I moved into the STEAM position, and unfortunately, our district has had some major financial problems. So I haven't really gotten to have any training. And so I kind of got dumped into the STEAM classroom with no idea what to do. And thankfully, she had told me to sign up to get them to come again. And we had them come in the fall. And they were just a lifeline to me because I used the digital workshops as well. So I ran 22 classrooms through those digital workshops, which are amazing. It's basically 45 minutes where a live instructor from Pacific Science Center does a whole lesson and kind of get you excited and ready for them to come. And it was just fabulous for me to be able to have that as a resource and to give me more ideas. And then, like I said, when they came, it was fabulous. We had the stuff in the gym, the pop-up exhibits that I ran all the classrooms through, and then we did 22 workshops inside the classrooms. All the teachers were so thrilled, and they were really good about, because we had to kind of change schedules around and stuff, and they were like fine with doing that. Yeah, so I'm so excited we get to see them again this year, because with our kids being in Yakima, they don't even go to Seattle that often, and let alone get to go to the Pacific Science Center. So it's been a fabulous experience.
Yeah, and what have the students said to you, especially the multilingual learners and students with disabilities?
They just absolutely love it. They did. So the one that we got last year was engineering. So we actually had some experiences with robots, and then the pop-up exhibits, there was a lot of building and things, and it was just amazing to how, no matter what level the kids were at, they were able to engage in it and just loved it. So, and they were like, "Oh, do they get to come again next week?" I'm like, "No, just this time, and hopefully next year." So yeah, no, they were so excited. So.
That's fantastic. Well, I'd like to learn more about what this actually looks like. So, Holly, what does an actual Science on Wheels visit look like? And like what kinds of curriculum topics do you offer? And then how does this help students gain science skills and knowledge?
Yes, thank you. Our panelists did a great job of already kind of describing what a Science on Wheels day is like. So we'll just share a little more with some images to kind of help people imagine it. But our whole day experience is our kind of flagship program. It is a full entire school day, start to end. It does have those three components that were mentioned. So the live science show, pop-up exhibits, and classroom workshops. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the themes that we have include math, engineering, physics, space science, and then anatomy and physiology. And just to dive into those a little more to paint the picture for you, just like folks were saying, our live science show is going to kick off the whole day. It's an assembly for the entire school. The goal of this is just to introduce the STEM topic for the day and get the students really excited and kind of introduce the basics. You can see here on the left, this is part of our space science assembly. We try to bring really fun, engaging demonstrations that maybe students haven't seen before. So we've got a vacuum chamber up there where we can kind of talk about how air pressure changes when we're out in space and what would it be like to be in outer space where we don't have all this air pressure that we experience here on Earth. So kids get to see some really fun demonstrations in there. And then for the next component, that's those pop-up exhibits that were mentioned as well. The goal of this part of the experience is to be more self-guided. So we want to give students a chance to go at their own pace, to really have some self-exploration and to kind of dive in deeper to get hands-on with a lot of these concepts. So on the left, you can see students engaging with a model of a human torso where they get to kind of take apart and put all back together the many different organs that we have in our bodies. On the right, you can see part of our engineering exhibit set. So students get hands-on with being able to practice those engineering skills like designing and testing and then changing things and redesigning their designs and testing them again. So they might be using materials like connects, or they might be using the components of an arch bridge. They might be getting to design something with our cubelet robots where they're exchanging in and out different sensors and inputs on the robots and seeing what types of outputs they can create with that. Another fun exhibit we have is our wind tunnel, where they get to experiment with different materials to build parachutes and test and see how that performs in the wind tunnel. And then for our classroom workshops, this part of the experience is in individual classrooms. It is meant to be also very hands-on and interactive, tailored more to a specific grade range. So for example, on the right, you can see the planetarium dome. This is one of our most popular workshops. It's a very immersive experience. It's a place where students can get to observe some of those celestial patterns that maybe they've been learning about in their classes. So things like moon phases and what causes that, or exploring kind of different patterns of how the sky changes throughout the seasons or from morning to night. Other things they might be doing in their classroom workshops, they might be carrying out investigations using things like magnets to test and sort different materials. That's the one shown in the left with some of our kindergarten and first graders. They might be doing more hands-on experiences like some comparative anatomy by configuring and comparing different animal skeletons. So those are the portions of the whole day. We also have a partial day experience because not every location is like a huge school with hundreds of kids that needs all of that. So we can also provide just one of the three components at a time to smaller locations, places like libraries, community centers, boys and girls clubs, summer camps, places like that. And then in conjunction with these, we do have the virtual component of our outreach programs. Those are digital discovery workshops. Just like Jenny was mentioning, this is a chance for our educators to join live virtually into students' classrooms and lead discussions and share different exciting demonstrations and help them to get maybe prepared for their Science on Wheels visit. We have a chance to use our document cameras and give students really close-up views of different specimens. For example, one of my favorites is where we get to do a sheep heart dissection, which is totally wild. The kids get really excited about that. But it helps them to learn about the circulatory system and how our different body systems work as they kind of get prepared to do their anatomy and physiology Science on Wheels Day. But what all of these programs have in common is we want to make sure that we are supporting next generation science standards, also our Common Core standards for math, to make sure that we're letting students actually experience those science and engineering practices and get hands-on and put into practice the things that they are learning from their classroom teachers. And then I know it would be great to hear from some students who weren't able to join us live today, but we did want to share a short video so that you all can kind of see a video of what a visit to a Science on Wheels looks like and hear some input from some students who experienced our program.
Technical difficulty. Let's try that one more time.
Yep, no worries.
Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Especially when it comes to science, time is probably our biggest challenges, but there are times where science feels like an afterthought.
And I know that there are some schools we have been to that haven't really had a science component to their education at all.
It's tough because as a teacher, that energy in the room is palpable when we are hands-on, when we're learning. These kids want, crave, and need more science, more hands-on learning about the world.
So being able to add in our additional programming is helpful to kind of bring that science component.
I like doing like science experiments. It's fun. It's like actually getting to like interact with the science. You can actually like go in there and like feel all the things and actually see it happening.
It helps me like understand more, and it just makes me feel like more confident and like make me like believe in it more.
We're always going to find the kids who can learn the math facts. We're always going to find the kids who can read the words. But sometimes those kids who are struggling over here, we miss them if we don't give them the opportunity to do these other things that they really are good about. There's so much more in the world to be good at than just putting an answer on paper or reading out of a book.
We introduce our engineering lessons as we're going to be civil engineers today, or we're going to be electrical engineers today. And kind of trying to set the tone where students can envision themselves doing those things down the line, or get excited about the potential of, oh, I could be a mechanical engineer someday. This is really fun. I like this.
It always goes back to students are interested. Like, if I'm not interested in something, I'm not open to learning about it.
And I get to learn more stuff about our world. I live in it, and I just want to know about stuff where I live.
It's important for students to see themselves in science and see themselves as scientists, no matter where they start.
The teamwork, the having to negotiate, the actual job of figuring out how to design, test, and redesign, these are all very crucial things. So that's just like on an academic sense, great. But I think the big one is back at that joy. Like, I think any teacher who was in any of those rooms with those kids being that excited, that engaged, that on top of things, I hope walked out with a big smile on their face.
I feel like in the future, they're always going to feel like, I can do this. Anything they set their mind into, they can do it. No one can stop them.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. Holly, how is the curriculum developed?
Sure. So our curriculum is developed on site by our education teams. We work really hard to make sure that, we're meeting again the goals of Pacific Science Center, that we are sparking that curiosity and that we're demonstrating science as a process and something that students actually get to participate in and get to do with their hands and with their minds. And then also balancing that with, of course, making sure we're providing what our teachers need and what our state standards are. So kind of aligning things with the three different dimensions of our next generation science standards, our cross-cutting concepts, our disciplinary core ideas, and kind of combining all those things together to have the biggest impact we can in our just short, brief time with these students.
Great. Well, I've got a question now for our educators on the panel, which is, how is Science on Wheels different from other science experiences or opportunities that your students have?
Well, I get myself freezing. For us, we, in a transitional kindergarten to 8th grade school district, most of our teachers don't have specific science training. They're generalists. So when we have Pacific Science Center come in, we have what I would consider true experts coming through our doors. And there's a lot of value there. I think they're teaching kids and modeling for staff at the same time. And how does it compare to other opportunities? What's hard for us when we're a very small remote school district, an hour or more from a museum or anything like that, we just don't have those opportunities. I mean, we can't afford to load everybody up and take them across the Hood Canal Bridge and get them on a ferry to Seattle. I mean, it's hard for us to afford that. So Pacific Science Center is giving us something that we probably wouldn't have otherwise. So we really appreciate it and we're thankful for it.
I think for us at Woodmont, we're probably in a little different boat compared to a small district because my kids actually do experience STEM labs at least once a week through their library time, and they interact with coding and robotics and do different projects. They already love science, and we have science built into our English language arts curriculum as part of our pacing. So I think the biggest thing I think about is it helps empower and continue to develop that STEM thinking, knowing that there's so many jobs, especially in our area, that are STEM focused, especially thinking about our girls going into STEM jobs is such a huge focus in our community right now as well. I also know many of my families here at my school don't have access to even get to school. They don't have vehicles and whatnot. So bringing this wonderful experience to them is just so enlightening. As a kid, I was a member to Pacific Science Center and used to love going. So actually seeing it now with my students is so, like, I remember just my own light bulbs going off as a kid. And just being able to touch things, just the tactile piece of that, because sometimes, in learning, it's a lot of paper, pencil, or whiteboards, and it's just a different opportunity for kids. I think it's also great to see that there's community coming out. I want to compliment the educators of PacSci. I'm always so impressed. They're natural teachers. They get in there. Some of them have been teachers. And so kind of like what you said, Trish, they also help kind of model how to really deliver science and really build that inquiry mindset. So I'm very appreciative of the opportunity.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, for me, it was just such a lifeline last year because of me being sort of limited on having ever taught STEAM before. Also, some of our elementaries actually lost their STEAM program this last year. We were lucky enough, and my principal advocated for us that we got to keep it, and I got to actually stay full time at my school. For a while there, it looked like I was going to have to go between two schools. So we're even losing our STEAM in some of our elementaries. So it's definitely an experience that not all the kids are getting. And yes, the educators were amazing, and just watching how they interacted and taught stuff, it gave me so many different ideas. We do have a couple of programs that are free programs that come to like the older grades. Like I think fourth grade gets Wheat Week, and fifth grade gets What's Smart. But the younger kids really don't get any kind of program that comes in specifically. So it's kind of like something that is pretty much the only thing they would get to have. And so that's why I desperately want to keep it so that we can keep having that experience.
Yeah, Holly, what have you heard from other districts and educators around the state in terms of how this is a different experience?
Yeah, I think, a couple things that we try to do to fill a need that is sometimes challenging for schools to meet is providing some of those resources that might be difficult or just unrealistic for schools to have, whether it's because it's a high cost item or simply because it's items that would be really difficult to maintain. So I'm thinking about things like, the mobile planetarium dome that we mentioned earlier, or things like a real human brain specimen that we maintain and are able to bring out, and what a unique and special experience that is. Or when we get to bring out our liquid nitrogen demonstrations. And so thinking about how we can just help supplement and strengthen and add on to the things that our schools are already doing in a way that is providing something that's just maybe just not realistic for them to do on like an individual classroom basis. And then I think the other thing we try to do that's a little bit different is just like folks have mentioned, make sure that we are coming to you to kind of reduce also the geographic barriers that Trish and Jenny have already mentioned. So just reducing the need to organize and pay for things like buses or coordinate chaperones, things like that, or just making sure that if you are going to do those field trips, maybe you get to spend that money on going somewhere else to some other awesome experience for your students, since we know that schools don't have just unlimited amounts of field trips that they can take every year. So those are a couple things we try to keep in mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Science on Wheels is the biggest outreach science program in Washington State. Where do you actually go?
Yes, we'll show the map again real quick, but so our motto with Science on Wheels is science is everywhere, and so are we. So we do truly believe in both aspects of that saying that, science is everywhere. It's in everything that we do, our daily lives, all of our experiences, and we try to kind of go everywhere all across the state. So if we zoom in just a little bit, we can kind of see here where the vans are as places where our in-person outreach has gone with Science on Wheels, with the little yellow computer screen as places that we've also done our virtual digital discovery workshops. And we really try to get out everywhere across the entire state. We had a pretty good reach the last couple years. And, for example, we have in the San Juan Islands a school last year that was like, we're this tiny school. We're on Shaw Island. I think there was 18 students in this K through eighth grade experience school. And we were like, you know what? We're going to make it happen. I think we took like a 5:30 a.m. ferry and made it out there. And there's, countless other stories of just those types of areas across the state that might be difficult to get to. And we really try to say yes to anywhere that will have us.
Well, what kind of feedback do you receive? Because you're providing this wonderful service, and obviously the students are excited, but has the program grown or changed based on feedback that you've gotten from educators and students?
Sure. So we do have a lot of different ways of getting feedback from our community. We send out a survey after every single program. We also have hosted, educator open house events. We've sent out an annual teacher survey. We've done focus groups. We try to get our ears to hear from folks as much as possible. A lot of the feedback we hear is largely positive and just emphasizing, the importance of the financial and geographical accessibility of our programs. On that survey last year, 95% of respondents said that Science on Wheels was supporting the STEM education that they're doing in their classrooms. And 92% said that it was helping students to make stronger connections between science learning and their daily lives. So that's really great to see. I did want to read one survey quote that just I felt like encapsulated what we hear from people a lot. They said, thanks to a generous grant, our school had the incredible opportunity to experience Pacific Science Center right at our school, an experience we wouldn't have otherwise been able to provide due to our high poverty status. This hands-on immersive learning brought science to life for all of our pre-K through 8th grade levels, sparking curiosity and deepening students' understanding of space, physics, and STEM concepts. Experiences like this provide equitable access to high quality educational opportunities that might not otherwise be available in our rural community. So that was feedback that came in from a principal at a rural public school that we served. So really great to hear. But we do also listen really carefully when folks do have suggestions for improvements or they're letting us know about needs that they have in their school and changes that we can make. So for example, we've heard over the last couple of years, a lot of folks now have TK, transitional kindergarten, or pre-K, like integrated into their elementary schools. And our program has traditionally started at kindergarten. But that was something that we heard from folks. And so this year we are developing new pre-K workshops to be able to make sure they are able to fully join in and have that same experience with the rest of their classmates. We've also heard from a lot of folks, like I think Jenny was mentioning, just about the need for resources for our multilingual students, particularly Spanish, but all of our multilingual learners. So we've been working really hard on finding additional trainings for our staff, strengthening our skills to work with those students and making sure we have, translated resources and making sure we're able to better communicate and engage with those Spanish speaking learners. And then we also just try to follow like general trends and needs of what's going on. So we've been watching really closely about how after the pandemic, specifically math scores have been a big challenge for schools. And there's been a lot of effort going into just helping students still catch back up, even though here we are in 2025. And so this year we relaunched our math program that had been on hiatus since 2020. And we were like, you know what, we really got to get this one back on the road as soon as possible. And so just trying to pay attention and listen and continue to evolve our program the way that we have for the last several decades.
Great. Well, we'll do a live focus group here in just a second. So Jenny and Sean and Trish, I'll ask you in a minute, like if you could change Science on Wheels in any way, or if you have ideas for what it would be like to look like in the future, love to hear what you think. So I'll give you a minute to think about that. But in the meantime, Braden, how is it that the Pacific Science Center is able to provide this program for free or deeply discounted?
Yes, thank you, Eric. As Holly mentioned earlier, our program is really far-reaching, and we're really grateful to be able to serve so many different Washington communities. A big reason of that is because we receive support from corporations and foundations, but also a lot of our funding comes from the state legislature. So to give you a sense of scope, as Holly mentioned earlier, last school year, Science on Wheels served about 114,000 Washington students. Of those 114,000, 52,000 of those students received the program for free, specifically because of funding from the state legislature. We are really grateful that the state has seen the value in this program. I mean, it's their money that allows us to provide this program at no cost in the past to schools. For folks on the call who pay attention to Olympia and the status of the state budgets, the state is going through kind of a consistent budget deficit. And so a reality of that is this past legislative session in 2025, we saw a cut in our funding. And so this ongoing school year, what we're in right now, is we're offering deeply discounted programs rather than free programs, with the goal and intent of being so that we can still serve as many students as we could in previous years when we were able to offer the program for free. Um, Now here I come to the ask where you can help advocate for Science on Wheels and continue to make it accessible and affordable for students. The state funding for Science on Wheels is set to expire after June 30th of 2026. So we only have funding for this current fiscal year. My responsibility as the government affairs manager for Pacific Science Center is to go into Olympia with educators who are supporters of the program and say, Science on Wheels is a need, not a nice to have, especially when it comes to the science education for students, where maybe Science on Wheels is one of the few, if or only, opportunities they have for hands-on science learning in the school year. So I'm going to be out advocating during the legislative session, which is coming up from January 12th to March 12th, with some of our great educators at PacSci and also educators from across the state who are supporters of the program. If you would like to join us on our advocacy efforts, we would absolutely love to have you share your perspective or share your voice about why you think this program is really important. I just shared a link that perhaps Eric can put in the main chat. But I'll also just share my screen really quickly. If folks are interested in joining us in our advocacy in the upcoming legislative session, you can just look up Pacific Science Center Advocate for Curiosity, and it will take you to this page here where you can sign up and join our advocacy coalition. And again, your voice is really, really impactful during this upcoming legislative session, because legislators are going to have to make hard decisions about what programs to keep and what programs to cut. And we want to make the message loud and clear from all across the state that this is a program that serves so many Washington students and is a helpful asset to their science education. So please help us in our advocacy efforts. And to wrap it all up in a bow up, Eric, we're able to serve so many students because the state legislature sees the value in this program. And so we want to remind them of the value and hopefully retain that funding into the next school year.
Well, if you were going to put this in terms of ROI, what kind of return on investment are you seeing? Are you seeing test scores go up? Are you seeing other ways of measuring success?
That's a great question. I'll actually pass to Holly because I feel like she'll have some deeper insight into that than I will.
Yeah, so over the years, we have done different evaluations about the impact of our programs. Currently, the main way we're evaluating is just on our surveys afterwards. So relying on those teachers to kind of report back to us like the impacts that they are seeing. And so teachers do share out that their students are more interested in STEM after the program as compared to before the program. We ask them about how students are using those science and engineering actual skills and practices, and if they're able to engage with those. And teachers are sharing that, yes, with us, that they are seeing those differences in their students.
That's great. I appreciate that. And Holly, I'll ask you one more question before I get to our educators. But what are the goals for the future for Science on Wheels?
Yes, so we have big dreams. We want to make sure that we are continuing to serve our mission and serve our community. So that means we want to continue igniting curiosity in all the students across Washington State. We want to continue supporting teachers and educators like Jenny and Sean and Trish and all those other folks out there across the state that are doing the best they can to provide these great STEM opportunities for our students. And so we do strive to serve every low income elementary school across the state. That's something we're working towards. We would love to accomplish that goal. We want to continue improving our resources and our staff skill sets for serving the students that might be furthest or have been historically marginalized from these types of opportunities. So making sure we're meeting those needs. And we also want to make sure that we are keeping our programs up to date with those real life STEM careers and, featuring local STEM professionals and current STEM endeavors that are happening in our state to keep our students kind of engaged and up to date with those things as they continue on past eighth grade into high school and beyond. But we cannot achieve these dreams without the support of our community. So just thank you to everybody who's here and for all those who support the work that we do.
Great. Well, now let's move on to our educators, Jenny and Sean and Trish. What would you like to see Science on Wheels evolve to be in the future for your communities?
Well, first of all, I'd like it to continue. I think I think it's part of basic education, really, for our children. And I would like, if we were looking, if you had a wish list, I'd like more staff development to be included with it as well. But I think that our legislature has the responsibility to fully fund basic education, and I think high quality science is part of that.
I don't have a lot of constructive feedback. I guess my wish list would be the lessons are standard aligned. In my perfect dream world, the next gen standard would align to each grade level that they're learning. And that would be a very big curriculum mapping job. But that would be kind of beautiful to see that, my kids in this grade actually get some additional enrichment of that topic or topics that they've learned throughout the school year. So that would be my big, big dream and wish list. But kind of like Trish, I just want to see it continue because I just know how magical PacSci is. So that's my number one.
Yeah, that's my main concern is that it could hopefully continue. Our district had actually, and the director who's in charge of STEAM had tried to get it so that it could come to all the elementaries this year, but then all the funding went wacky, and so they weren't able to do that. So a few of the elementaries got to have it last year that wouldn't have gotten to, but not everybody. So definitely it's something that I think I just would really, really, really want to continue. One thing that came up with when after our last one was a lot of the stuff that they used in the classroom workshops. The teachers are like, do you know where they got those, whatever thing it was? And it was like specifically one, I think the set of blocks that was shown with the little sticks that put it together. And I did ask where you guys got that. And you've had it for several years, so nobody really remembered. But they did give me a couple places to look. And unfortunately, because it's been a few years, they didn't have it anymore. But that's one thing is like if there was a way to, because like I've pretty much purchased everything that's in my room through grants and my own money. And so I definitely love whenever I find something else that the kids really like and that really helps teach them a specific thing, especially something that's standards based. I always try to get, those are the things I try to buy over time for my room. So that's one thing that would be helpful.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Holly and Braden, I'd like to give you an opportunity to share any final thoughts before we wrap up.
It's been a pleasure. I'm taking notes. So thank you, Jenny and Sean and Trish, for your feedback and just your continued partnership. And yeah, thank you again, Eric, for hosting us. It's been really wonderful. And I just am really looking forward to continuing to be out there the whole rest of this school year to get to see the impact that we'll be having across the state, and hope to see some of you who are on this call out there in your communities. If we haven't been to your school yet or out to your community, please visit our website, Science on Wheels, at the pacsci.org website, and connect with our registration team. We would love to come out to you and bring a program to your students.
Eric, I saw a question in the chat from Raitha for our email addresses, so I just sent that to you. If you could provide that with her or to them.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. I am putting that in the chat right now so that anyone can access that. And I can also include that in the follow-up emails as well.
Holly said it best. I've got no additional notes. Just thank you so much, everyone, for the time, especially for our educators on the panel. We know it's in the middle of the school day, so we really, really appreciate it.
Great. Well, Braden and Holly and Jenny, Sean and Trish, Thank you so much for being part of this, and thanks to everyone for participating and submitting questions. If you'd like to learn more about Science on Wheels, visit the Pacific Science Center's website, pacificsciencecenter.org. Our next webinar will take place next Thursday, December 18th. We will spotlight the Washington State Board of Education's Future Ready program, a statewide effort to modernize high school graduation requirements. Members of the state board and Future Ready partners will share what they've learned so far from students, families, educators, and community organizations across Washington. Registration information is on our website, educationvoters.org. Just go to events, then lunchtime webinars. Spanish interpretation and English closed captioning will be available. Thank you to each of you for joining us today. If you have additional questions or comments, please send them to me at Eric, A-R-I-K, @educationvoters.org. A recording of today's presentation will be available on our website and will be sent to you in the follow-up email to today's webinar, which you should receive in about 24 hours. Please share this recording with your friends, colleagues, and your legislators. If you'd like to learn more about League of Education Voters or support our work, please visit our website, educationvoters.org. Thank you again for attending. Each one of us has the right to feel safe and valued. Together, we will fight for a world in which true educational and economic equity exists. We look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Jenny, Sean, Trish, Holly, and Braden, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for everything you shared. And thank you for everything you do for Washington's students, families, and educators. May have a great rest of your week.
Take care, Eric. Have a good day.
Thank you.